and down more. It definitely can put the onus on Oscilio to go a little bit faster, or Lord forbid, block, which Oscilio sometimes just straight up cannot do. So definitely a smart meta call at this point.
And as well, the good thing, if you're on the side of Haydendale, is the fact that it doesn't really matter which version of Oscilio is presented, because your game plan doesn't involve blocking anyway. Your whole thing is you want to just kill them. Now, we're probably going to see the Claw of Dracai from the side of Hayden, which is that spell void dagger you can buy back. My question is, and this is a card that we've seen a little bit kind of rear up recently, and I want to talk about it. Boots of Omen's Ward. People thought this card was really bad, and then suddenly, turns out being able to block a lot is really good.
Yeah. When I saw it, I immediately thought, if you have nothing better to do, this card is incredibly good. Like it fills the same kind of niche that Crown of Providence does, where my hero doesn't have a headpiece that furthers my game plan, I may as well draw a card and insulate myself from CNC. And with so much arcane damage in the meta, Boots of Omnis Ward being able to get 3 value over the course of the game and force your opponent to just math out that little bit extra, especially as Oscilio plays on your own turn, super, super impactful.
And here we go as well. That is what Hayden has presented. The all-important question now for the side of Benji, what is he presenting in regards? And look at this.
Here we go.
In the arm piece, we're actually seeing the Aether Bindings of the Third Age, Old Knocker, and it is the Storm Striders. So Hayden now knows for a fact, okay, this is a race. I have to kill you because I cannot block this at all. There's no efficient way for Hayden to deal with large arcane. And so as a result, this match, ladies and gentlemen, if you were just thinking about going to the bathroom, I'd probably wait till after this because this one's going to go crazy.
This is definitely going to be a heater of a match. I think having arcane dynamos on the side of Cindra is really going to help if you put the onus on Oscilio to block. Cindra famous for not having a whole lot of on hits that aren't on hit die, but again, super strong bit of equipment if you're able to make the game go long enough where the tempo arcane really starts to add up.
Yeah, so starting it off, we are going to have the Kunai of Retribution, and Hayden is immediately showing as well he's probably a little bit more prepared, does have a blue here in the pitch zone, but importantly, isn't actually running any arcane barrier. So it doesn't have any ways of actually pitching to it, but shows that the blue base is important. And this is a little bit interesting if you, I guess you kind of know, I don't want to let my opponent filter. Hayden knows that Oscilio has a lot of cards that don't block. And so this opening turn, this turn 0, if, Benji draws their hand up and it's just full of cards that don't block, this could be an unbelievable amount of damage. And don't be surprised to see Hayden actually popping resources on turn 0 if it is shown that Benji can't block it. Now, luckily for him, he does have a fair few cards in hand that block. And the first point of damage goes to Haydendale.
Fantastic. I mean, 35, might be 34 shortly. Really depends on how Hayden wants to play this. Getting a few extra life points over the top is going to matter, I think. And also going first and second, the case can be made in either way. Ooh.
So Rising Resentment came across the snapback to actually deny the mastery, but Hayden is going to get the first draw here using Ancestral Empowerment, +1 draw a card, and now still a single point of damage leaks across, and this next attack is super scary for the side of Hayden here because the Mask of Momentum trigger is prevalent. Now, we've seen different players go Mask versus Mask of the Pouncing Links, and I would have interested to see if we were actually going to see Pouncing Links, because I can imagine this is the kind of matchup where you just want to combo them off.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, talk about a card that gets a lot of value off of Mask of the Pouncing Links. I would struggle to think of a matchup that isn't gravy where you get more value off of a huge Salt the Wound. We're talking Salt the Wound for 6, sometimes 8 damage. Massive blowout.
Yeah, Art of Dragon Fire is going to be presented here. So Hayden just going to, flick the dagger, get an extra point of damage, and then buy the kunai back. So an incredibly powerful turn for the side of Haydendale. Was able to present a bunch of damage, force cards out of hand. In particular, the Comet Storm Shock is such a big, when you were talking about the decks that, care about doing big arcane, Comet Storm Shock, one of the better ones, because it also has that shock element too.
Yeah, I think that was just really well played. I mean, going first into a tempo matchup can be really, really scary, and being able to navigate that, get some extra damage, force some cards out of the hand, know what you're playing with, and still end on an arsenal is just exactly what you want. Oh,
Yeah, speaking there of the Common Storm shock, one was put into the bin, but the second one coming across, so 6 arcane damage and the activation of the weapon here as well. You know, we were talking about it when they announced, oh, they're going to ban the original Volzar, and people were like, why? It's become pretty apparent why that card was banned.
yeah, exactly. I think this is looking at 7 arcane. I think that's a Will of Arcana in the pitch
Oh, it
zone.
is.
A Cosmic Flare in the bin. Volzar trigger. That's pretty nice.
Good. And in particular as well, the reason why I say he Cosmic Flared to be able to play the first side and then the second side. This is a lot of damage coming through for the side of Benji. And you know, that life advantage that was there from Hayden cut down immediately. And over the top strike twice being pleasant. Hey, I've heard Snapback's a good card. Here's another one.
Yeah, with the one floating and not paying into the shock part side of Burn Up Shock, it was a bit obvious that he was just going to get blasted there. But back to Hayden's turn.
Yeah, and this is what we expect. You know, Oscilio, if it's going to do one thing, it's going to send a lot of damage. But Cindra, a deck that also does it, Hayden gives a little bit of a cheeky look as Oath of Loyalty being the first card. Important to note here with this Oath of Loyalty is that Hayden currently does not have any fealty tokens. So you know for a fact that every single card has to naturally be Draconic, or he has a way of gaining a fealty during this turn.
Yeah, again, the one cost that we saw on the prior turn out of the Dragonfire is a nice playoff with the fealty if you're able to get it Draconic. But at the moment, you can kind of guess where this hand is going to go and what cards are going to be played.
Yeah, no blocks being presented. Now Hayden, onus back on him. Now there's an interesting line as well and something to look out for. Actually immediately going to come out here. So using one of the more powerful cards in one of the reasons why Cindra's been brought back into this meta, Draco Fire. Next attack gets +2 and costs 1 less to activate, but also gives you the resource if you banish 2 of them. And this is going to be the kunai coming in for 3 now. Activation of Oscilio to try and dig a little bit for a blocking card. And you see the shake of the head. Benji doesn't want to give up any of the block cards he has with block, but it's so scary versus these Cindra decks.
Yeah, I think this is just playing really, really well into Hayden Dale's game plan of I want desperately to play this tempo game with you and I will force you to block because it's just too tempting not to.
Yeah, and it's interesting here as well. And I think it's a really smart block from the side of Benji because he knows that Hayden can't flick a dagger to extend the chain, but Hayden still has plenty of cards left in hand. And we are now seeing, what card is that?
That is from Compendium of Wraith.
Yeah.
It looks like Spreading Flames, but it's not quite Spreading Flames. If you control 2 or more Draconic chain links, I believe it gets +2 and go again.
Hey, it's heard that's pretty good. And also what the classic ender for the side of Hayden Dale is that Lava Burst coming across for 5 damage. And look at the life that is being cut down. And now Hayden taking a moment, just considering as well whether or not, so he's going to flick the dagger. Asking Benji said that's fine. You know, players will run down life totals, but it is one of those things where you pass through quickly, and then it's just going to buy the daggers back. And Hayden does that because technically the dagger's not in the graveyard yet, so he flicks it to put it in there so he can buy both of the daggers back. Still, really powerful turn. Just has the natural Lava Burst line, and also keeps a card for the Arsenal as well.
Yeah, I think that's the second snapback that we've seen out of the deck. So really something to play around, especially as the life totals get a little bit lower. And you wonder, can the Oscilio kill me here?
Yeah. And we see here Echo Flash being discarded to the Oscilio ability. Oh my God, Sigils for days. Hayden just immediately goes to read the cards. And that's why so much damage leaked through. And we saw the digging because, hey, you know what? If I have no way of blocking. So we see Sigil of Aether, a card we've seen plenty of times before. It deals on Arcane. If it does, you amp. Followed up by a Signal of Temporal Manipulation. At the beginning of your action phase, banish the top card of your deck. If it's a non-attack, you can play it as ult or instant. And finally, the third sigil that I'm not sure which one that is because it's the alternate art. I don't think it's Brilliance. It's
no,
it's Temporal, right? Either way, though, a point of damage leaked across from the Echo Flash being discarded, and Hayden smartly didn't actually opt to spell void it with the Claw of Dracai. Little did he know that Benji instead just had a hand, literally a grip full of sigils, and now probably considering how do I convert this 5-card hand, because 31 plays 22 seems like a pretty big life advantage for the side of Hayden Dale. But you have to remember as well is that Benji can technically take 2 card can technically take 2 turns in a row with those Storm Striders. And the all-important second copy of Draco Fire has entered the bin now as this dagger is coming across for 3.
Yeah, when we take a step back to that last turn, you realize how close Benji got to getting away with murder. Having a single blocking card in his hand and being able to stop a mask trigger is the next level of mind game. You've got to respect the poker face.
I think he also dug for it as well. He activated the Oscilio on that turn and discarded an instant. So might have actually drawn the dreaded 4-card instant hand and luckily found a card not only that blocked, but blocked for 3 off the top. Ignite going to come across now. And so Hayden opting not to pitch at all this turn, doesn't need it.
One of my favorite cards in Flesh and Blood. This Ignite? Thing is so... Oh, 1 second. Sorry.
No worries. Ignite, an incredibly powerful card. 0 for 2 with Go Again, but the next Draconic card you play or activate, importantly, costs 1 less this turn. It's interesting as well. Hayden, loses a little bit of offensive value because of the Claw of Inserkai. Doesn't have Go Again, but now it doesn't seem to matter as Demonstrate Devotion getting discounted once again on hit, make a fealty. So in this instance, another 0 for 4 with Go Again, still has 2 cards available. Benji sitting at 16 life. Hayden going to opt to pitch in this instance and flick. And Mental Block will come out here to actually deny the flick, as well as a single point of damage is not actually going to leak across. Benji also does have access to a Sync Blow, and Hayden now in consideration here of what he wants to do. And oh, no, sorry, he wasn't flicking. He actually instead opted to use the Throw Dagger and reactions as well. And the Mental Block importantly means that Hayden is denied the card draw. So really smart from Benji, saving that Mental Block here. Could have cleanly blocked out the Ignite, but instead just used it at the perfect time. A Mental Block, a card we've seen so many times, be incredibly powerful. And Hayden, you see, reels a little bit, wasn't playing around the Mental Block. And now this turn loses a lot of its potency. Sink Below comes across as well. Judge Call going to happen as well. And this is important to note as well. Nothing in particular is necessarily bad, but you have to remember that if you have a question or anything like that, a Judge Call comes across. Welcome back, Xander. Xander, for what you missed as well, Hayden actually activates Throw Dagger in reactions that gets Mental Blocked. Now Hayden has a consideration of if he has actually priority to be. We don't know. We'll try and get information exactly what's happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a question about priority. And can I actually soak up the Mental Block before the flick happens?
Yeah, as well. Does Mental Block prevent the next 2, or does it prevent 2 from the next source?
Yeah.
Right, that could be pretty big. I mean, talk about getting your value out of your card.
Well, it's not even from the next source. It's just the next 2 damage.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
so so that's why the card is so powerful. You can if it's 4 into 4, you can block, and then that sort of thing. As we're back into the action here. So yeah, all gone through. The Ponder has been created. I think it was a question about that sort of thing. And now Snatch coming across for Hayden. I probably would have liked an additional card. Doesn't have a huge amount of blocking value, and this is one thing with this version of Oscilio. You don't really have a fridge. Digging with Oscilio again does not find a second blocking card, so this Snatch likely to connect.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden really playing this super measured, and Oscilio having the blocking hand here does help the case, but again, being able to draw a card off of this, I think this is only the second chain, right? If I'm looking at this right, the Demonstrate Devotion got synced or sank.
I see. And yeah, so this is smart here from Hayden. He's going to flick the dagger, which eats up the Mental Block. The question, I think, we got word from a man down on the floor was just whether or not Hayden creates the fealty, which, Benji has allowed him to do, which is really nice. Hayden's going to buy back the daggers, and the Snatch does hit, so Hayden does end. Oh, the Mental Block as well. So yeah, so they've realized gains the life. It isn't going to block up the Snatch because it will just eat the flick. And that's why Mental Block is super powerful, can deny those cards. And, Benji Mental Blocking the Throw Dagger there probably saved him at least 4, if not more life. And it's a pretty big life advantage for Hayden, but look at what's about to pop on the starter turn for Benji.
Yeah, this is pretty strong. And obviously not finding any Sigils of Fate with Future Sight to be able to amp this even more might hurt a little bit, but you're still not scoffing at your arm piece getting 3 value. I'm not sure if they were blocked with last turn either.
I don't believe they were. So Aether Bindings here, I think he's going to respond to the Sigil of Aether. So he's going to layer it. So the Sigil of Aether will go first. And I think Hayden's just reading just to sort of see, because it's interesting. Whenever an Aura Permanent Sigil leaves the arena, amp 1. So he's representing the 3 amp in this instance, but it's technically not actually happened yet. It will happen,
Mm.
but because the sigils pop one at a time, and Hayden has to decide if he wants to actually block this additional damage to deny the singular point of amp. And I wouldn't be surprised if the claw gets used here.
Yeah, Claw or Boots of Omnisword will probably get used over the course of this turn. You'd have to imagine that this is going to be the big swing where you get pumped for a lot of Arcane. But I mean, talk about an uphill battle for Benji. 11 plays 30. Just the raw Arcane hasn't been able to get there so far.
I will say the thing with these Oscilio decks is that it is quite difficult to math out exactly how much damage they can do on your turn, because you have to count snapbacks, you have to count things like Echo Flash, like putting that in the bin as well.
Yeah.
So we're seeing seeing just everything hits the sink below, but does actually miss. So misses one, gets the second one. Hayden bracing for impact, and it is, speaking of that meteoric impact, that was one of the few that's actually been there. So it is going to be a 1 for 5 because an instant has been put into the graveyard.
This thing is such a limited bomb. I mean, getting the swell tidings level of damage off of one resource really makes the difference for how this deck wants to curve out. Obviously, trying to utilize this hand perfectly might be a little bit challenging with 4 possible playable cards and a ponder on the back end.
You know what I see looking at Meteoric Impact as an ex-Icelander player? I see that as a perfect Waning Moon target. You pitch a blue, play impact after like discarding an instant, then Waning Moon. That's 8 damage.
That is kind of nice. Yeah, Sigil, Meteoric Impact, Waning Moon.
Sounds good to me. Now Hayden has to consider. Now it is sort of important to know that obviously he has the boots. He can technically activate his hero ability to buy back the sigil if he needs to, and this is scary. So now we're actually seeing, using the action point, the Aether Flare coming across. Aether Flare, for those of you who do not know, is going to be it's kind of like Aether Wildfire, but only for a singular card. So it's 3 damage. How much damage actually happens, it'll come across, but it is actually pumped up pretty extensively by those graps and by the Aether Binding. So this is going to be for 7, and activating the boots as well as using the claw here. So 2 damage being negated. So this is going to come through for 5, which is, and then buffs the next thing. Guess what? An instant spot of the graveyards. This is then going to be for 10, and suddenly the life totals have been cut in half. Hayden's life vanishes in an absolute, just disappears.
You could say it was gone in a flash, even. I mean, these are the explosive, big arcane turns that Oscilio really wants to play for, and Aether Bindings of the Third Age really facilitating enormous amounts of arcane on your turn. Exactly what you want to do with it.
Now Hayden sitting at 18 was, again, he did activate what we were saying. He was able to buy back the daggers. Now, technically his hero is still tapped, but there's nothing else in the deck that taps the hero. So just representing that he has that hero ability activation. Cloud Cover, I think, was a card in Benji's hand, which is really important for these Oscilio decks versus something like Hayden's, because not only does it block, but it's also an instant going to the graveyard, and we've seen how powerful that can be.
Yeah, having ready prevention to just stop an extra marsh trigger in case you need it is exactly the kind of flexibility that this deck needs to get over the line, given how fragile it is and how weak of a fridge it represents.
Ignite's going to be the first play. And now Benji, every single turn, you're going to see him sit there and count and figure out some math of like, can I pull the trigger here? And this is the scary thing with Storm Striders, is when and can you pull the trigger? Because if you pull the trigger too early and you do not kill your opponent, the game becomes unbelievably difficult.
Yeah, that's always the wizard thing, right? You know, playing your post-combo game is a sign of an excellent wizard player, but you know it's an even better sign of a great wizard player? Just killing them.
I was going to say, the best post-Storm Striders part of your game is usually getting lunch, because ideally that's what you want to be doing. It is 15 to 12 for the life totals here. So Cap of Quick Thinking, and Hayden just thinking to himself as well. Is that Cap of Quick Thinking? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So destroy this. It just prevents 1 damage. You can just discard an instant and then draw a card and prevent 1 of the damage. So the kunai is going to be prevented and still has plenty available. Hayden doesn't have a flick target here either, importantly, because he used the claw on the previous turn.
Yeah, we can definitely see it probably coming back at some point shortly.
I think it's really important for Hayden that he does it. Like, he has the activation whenever, and it's super important when he activates it. Because if he puts the activation on the stack, Benji can go, hang on, in response, blast you for a bunch of damage. We are going to see a block coming out, though, Rising Resentment. Yeah, we see what's in the hand. We've got the ability to make 3 resources at instant speed. A card that you kind of like was a little innocuous when it was announced and is so powerful in these Oscilio decks as well. The Cosmic Flare.
Yeah, being able to. Oh,
okay, this is smart. Okay, so Hayden is going to activate Flick Knives and flick himself to guarantee the grains of the blood spill, so he gains the resource. Because this is super heads up from Hayden, because he knows like there is prevention available. We've seen the cap, we've seen all sorts of things, and just coming through once again on that back end, just going to have the single resource. And I think it's not hunted, it's cut through is going to be there. And it says if a dagger this combat chain is hit, it gets +1 and go again. And guess what? It's hit, just didn't hit the opponent.
That's a little bit cheeky. I really like that play.
Yeah. It's a play that we've seen a lot from like Cindra's when the deck was super impactful. Fealty being activated here now. What is the card from Arsenal? A single resource is left floating, and it is going to be probably the worst card that you could see for the side of Benji, because he activated the Fealty as well. So this is draconic, as the Art of Dragon Fire is going to present 7 damage here, 2 damage that's unpreventable, and this Will's 5, and this is going to force cards from his hand.
Yeah, this was pretty heads up, knowing that the resource was floated off of Grains of Blood Bill. Wait, blood splattered vest.
Yeah, so Warriors.
Yeah. Man, talk about a blowout. I mean, this is exactly the card you wanted to see, and 1 life is a small price to pay for being able to send 7 across the table on a relatively small aggro deck.
Now, the thing is, Benji... Oh, sorry, they're doing life. So, yeah, Benji... I think this is correct. Yeah, 14 plays 6. And I do believe Benji's already actually taken the 2 damage. So he technically can declare no blocks in this instance. But do you really want to go to 1? I don't think so.
Surely not. I mean, that's got to be such a scary predicament. And talk about terrible timing on that future site. Finding a window to push back here is going to be really, really important. There is a Comet Storm Shock in the hand, which will nudge that life total just that little bit more.
And I guess the scary thing is, right, like I said, Hayden has the ability to free activate Kasai at any point during this turn. And if I can't foresee Benji actually firing anything off because he needs his cards. Yeah. But I mean, let's say he does fire it off, it's 6 damage. Hayden's at a very precarious life total. Now, we haven't seen any sigils from the side of Hayden. So, I would be surprised if we did. So it's interesting to see, does he actually find it? Because the Oscilio deck, for as much power as we've said on both turns, the Oscilio deck doesn't always have it. And it's actually going to discard the Comet Stone Shock. Finds a sink below off the top as well.
Wow.
They took the gamble in that instance to discard the big arcane spell, and is rewarded handsomely with a sink below. The second card we've seen, the first one, was actually placed into the banish zone. There's a card in Arsenal for Benji as well. Has to take a moment of consideration, but no, he's just going to take it. The damage links across, 1 life available. Oh, wait. No, sorry. The life total was 6 before the 2 damage off the top. So he has to sink here.
Yeah, this will put Benji at 1. No, he'll take 1, sorry. So it'll be at 3. Still very scary. Almost every attack in Cindra's deck will be threatening life total from this point onwards. And also does put you on the Flick Knives clock.
Yeah, that is the thing, right? You cannot be in a situation versus this deck where they can just Flick Knives you to death. Now, we've seen already a singular copy of Mental Block from Benji, so it does have ways of combating it. Also, Cloud Cover, Hayden knows exists as well. He's going to discard for, again, this time off of the sink below. Has actually drawn up 2 reds. I don't know what that card in Arsenal is, but the scary thing about it is that I don't think he can actually pay for... Well, he can pay for 1, but he can't pay for both. He was digging. The Aether Spindle was drawn off the top, but he can't actually pay for it.
That's brutal.
He's got an old knocker just to Aether on his turn.
It'll get you over the line, and it gives you such important hand info at this point, knowing only one of it can be a bead or spell voided, I should say.
Yeah, we talked about the potential here. And it's important to know he's not activating the wand either. So this is just 4. So he'll get to see 3 cards. Doesn't get the perfect sculpture of the hand. And Hayden has to consider as well. Doesn't have any other way. So you are right. The claw's going to go. But do you let him see an extra card? Because we were sort of talking about how important claw is as well. So you either let him see an extra card, or you put yourself in a situation where he can Storm Stride as your activation of your hero ability, and so you'll never get to see. But no, it's going to deny the information.
Yeah, I think letting Oscilio know exactly what they're drawing into, especially at such low life totals, is terrifying. Terrifying.
But I will say, does not have access to that old knocker again, and that's really important here.
That's a wildfire. That's a wildfire in the hand.
The wildfire has been drawn here, ladies and gentlemen. The card that has ended so many people's runs at tournaments throughout the years. Kano have used it. Icelander probably shouldn't have, but has drawn it up, has found the blue as well as an instant speeder play of shocking. And as a result, Ignite will be the first card thrown.
Oh, this is what I was talking about. This is not lethal. It's one of the few cards in the deck that isn't lethal. So in response, those flick knives are going to come out, and then you're going to want to do something about it. But when do you pull the trigger here? I'm head casing so hard. I don't know when you pull the trigger. I don't think Benji does. Oh, looks like a judge call.
Yeah. So just having a moment to consider. And again, like we talked about, obviously not much has happened in this instance, but if you're ever in a tournament situation, you have a question, you're unsure about how something works. So even if you just want to make sure you understand a card, call a judge. You're not going to lose time over it. If it's a long call, they'll give you a time extension. The judges are there to help you. That is why they are there. So call a judge. But interestingly enough, though, I do believe off the Oscilio activation, he actually discarded his blue. And I think he dropped a red card. So it's interesting. It might be down. I haven't read the exact wording on Oscilio. Yeah, you do have to discard first. Yeah, couldn't have known, and that was his only instant. But if he doesn't actually have the resource count, and he doesn't have Old Knocker available either, Aether Wildfire costs 2 plus the Storm Striders. You need 3 resources just to do the first attack, and Aether Wildfire by itself, not that good.
Yeah, I can definitely see a world where Oscilio gets over the line here, but being that starved for resources into a Cindra with a full grip of 4 cards, that's going to be tough. That's going to be almost impossible.
And now we'll see the 2 damage is going to leak across. And just taking a little bit of a moment here. Hayden wants to reveal the least amount about his hand. And this is the thing you have to remember, Wizards. You and I know Hayden has no way of negating any additional damage, right? As long as Benji can pay for everything, Hayden's dead. But it's super important when you verse Wizards that you don't give up information unnecessarily. And you put them in a situation like this, where Hayden is doing. Every single card right now kills. And you want to put it in a situation where every card kills and you have the most amount of cards available in hand. So they do not know what happens. And yeah, as a result, Benji down to 2 has to force action here one way or another. And I think the smart thing as well, if he believes he can live this turn, is to not pull the trigger now, put Hayden to as low a life total as possible before doing it. Because, yeah, look, in the hand, he has found a shock, right? So there is a way of being able to do it. And it is one of the few, because it's consigned to Cosmos Shock, which is just being blocked with. It's going to get +1 over the top. Ancestral Empowerment now is going to allow 1 damage to leak through. Hayden draws a card. And we'll see here. Immediately, though, if you're blocking and you've committed this card to blocks, it's hard to get enough resources and damage over the top. It was your 1 instant speed 0 cost, so now suddenly that Aether Wildfire looking a lot less interesting. And I think Benji was relying on drawing a blue card.
Yeah, Benji trying to draw blood from a stone here, finding a way to both live this turn and push the arcane damage over the top. It's going to be tough, especially being in the Flick Knives waiting room now.
Yeah, and you heard as well Hayden saying, yeah, I've resolved Ancestral Empowerment. Am I going to flick? And this is a super interesting point because he technically can flick right now and win the game if Benji has no prevention. But he also is considering, do I want to swing the kunai for 1 and then flick it on the last chain? And I think it's scary because, again, we talk about information. Hayden's deciding because I think, yeah, technically right now he flicks, he wins, right? Benji does not have any negation unless that Arsenal card is a cloud cover. But do you want to run the risk? Because we've seen him been blown out once before by mental block. Does he want to do it now?
Yeah, as well. Sending the dagger first and then flicking opens yourself up to mental block, but I think that's a risk you have to take, what with the extra resources.
Yeah, he is just going to opt to actually send the dagger by itself. And this is what you're excited about if you're Hayden Dale, to see that card being blocked with Blaze Headlong for 4 coming across now. Benji knows the writing is on the wall unless he has found another 0 for 4 alongside a mental block. Has to pop the Storm Striders, going to activate, and in response here, Hayden's just going to tap with Ignite, going to buy back the dagger, use it in this instance, so he negates some of the damage. A single point's going to come across. Benji deciding, I have these cards available. The damage will come through, and Hayden Dale, through the skin of his teeth, able to pull together a hand where Benji looked like he had everything to play for, but couldn't get there.